And for us to say a very good morning to Mr. Nico Kleynhans. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Good morning to you, the listeners.
So tell us those 3 short stories about making a difference, please.
The trigger for what I want to talk about today was a radio listener. She contacted me during the past week. A couple of years ago, she approached a bank and she made a loan of 66,000 rand. Now, while she was working and her husband was working, they were able to meet the payments, no problems whatsoever. And then came COVID and all the other nonsense that accompanied it, and she got herself into trouble. And a couple of weeks ago, that particular bank system failed, and they took a double deduction against the loan. And as a result of that, she didn't have any money for food. And no matter what she did with the bank, they were not cooperating. So the first question I asked is, if the loan was 66,000 rand and you made most of the payments, how much do you owe now? And she said 220,000 rand.
What?
And not only was the loan now 220,000, the bank was adding the equivalent of 150 rand per day in interest to that particular loan. Now, clearly, in terms of the regulations, something was wrong, and the bank is acting outside of the law. But now she's getting threatening phone calls. She's getting all kinds of letters from attorneys, and she's in trouble. And so she turned to me and said, "Can you help? Can you fix the problem?" Now, legally, she can go to the banking ombud and lay a complaint. But the banking ombud tells us that she herself, as an ombud, is dealing with 8,500 complaints every single year. And they are not able to get all those complaints cleared. And the process of getting the banking ombud to even look at your complaint is complex. And many people don't have the access to be able to get the process started, because the banking ombud is going to want the original documentation. And if you don't have the original documentation of 7 or 8 years ago, they're not even going to look at your complaint. So now I'm supposed to make a difference. I'm supposed to help, and the whole system is stacked against the client. And we're dealing here with injustice. And I was left feeling really frustrated. I want to get to my second story. And my second story relates to Thursday mornings. On my way to the studios, I have a routine. When I get into my car, I put on CCFM on the radio because I need to get an idea of the vibe in the studio. And I'm not a morning person like the two of you are. And so I need to get that vibe to get my sense of, okay, you need to wake up. Then I put on Waze so that I can work out how long it's going to take me to get to the studio. If I'm lucky, it's going to be 8 minutes. If I'm not lucky, it's going to be 18 minutes. Because one of the things I've got to pass through is this bridge. And every couple of months, the bridge will gobble up another truck. And then when that happens, you can't even go past the bridge. You've got to do the long way around.
Yeah.
But under that bridge exists one of the homeless communities of Muizenberg. It's a fairly stable community. It's not growing by any number because the rest of the homeless people tend to live on the mountainside rather than in the town itself. But every couple of months, as I pass through, I notice Metro Police. And then I know what's going to happen. The community is going to get woken up. they're going to get photographed, and some of them are going to get these ridiculous fines. And then there's going to be a sense of trauma in this community. When I get to the car park across the road, often there is a particular woman who herself is homeless. But she comes there with her car, with a flask of coffee. And all she does is she is available to anybody who wants to talk. And she'll give you a cup of coffee, and she allows you to unpack. And on days that the Metro Police have been here, the queue outside her car goes longer and longer. But she is making a difference. And her way of making a difference is to give an ear and provide some coffee. That's all she can do, but it's what she does. Now I want to get to my third story. And my third story relates to an acquaintance who a couple of days ago was rushed off to hospital and put in ICU. In fact, she had a life-threatening situation on her hands. And she deeply resented the fact that her health had collapsed. And the doctors knew what was wrong with her, but they didn't know what the trigger was. And her resentment was that her first grandchild is about to be born in a couple of days. And now she's lying in hospital, in ICU, and the daughter needs her. And as she lay there, she resented God. She resented that He had placed her in this hospital, and she couldn't work out why she was supposed to be there. And around midnight on one of these days, as she was standing there feeling sorry for herself, she had one of these moments that happen when the light suddenly comes on. And she thought, while we've been lying here in this ICU, we've been talking to each other as patients. We've been talking about our fears. We've been talking about our family. We've been talking about God. We've been talking about our pain. We've been talking about our hopes. We have, in fact, been ministering to each other. We just didn't realize it. So, in fact, we haven't been wasting time here in hospital. We have been making a difference in our lives. So now I want to try and bring this together. I don't know how many thousands of people are listening to this broadcast. And I don't know how many need to be reminded that we have to make our difference. It's our calling. And I think our problem is that sometimes we think we only make a difference when there's angelic music playing in the background, when pink bubbles rise up to the ceilings, and when there is all kinds of drama in the background. But it seems to me we make a difference when we are available with hot coffee, milk, and sugar. We make a difference when we're just hearing and not necessarily able to change the situation. We're making a difference when we're lying in ICU and we're talking to people. So why don't we make today special and just for one situation, make a difference. So when your neighbor comes over and she's got another bruise on her face, just make a difference. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Nico.